Judging by the Michigan State fans that are entering my YouTube comments, it's obviously going to be a big basketball game this weekend. I think it's about time that we bring in Zach Berry and talk all about this game. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Steven Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. Ole Miss is taking on Michigan State Friday at 6:09 on CBS. Bill Rafferty, Grant Hill, the A team for CBS is going to be in Atlanta. It should be a whole lot of fun, but we haven't heard from Zach Berry in a little while. So I was curious what his thoughts on this game was. And Zach, it's really interesting to me, the dynamics. When you look at the comment section that I'm having, Michigan State fans are saying Ole Miss is not used to seeing a defense like Michigan State. Ole Miss is not used to seeing depth like Michigan State. And I was like, Ole Miss has victories over half of the Sweet 16 this year, and their only losses since like February 25th is against Auburn and Florida. I mean, Ole Miss isn't scared of anybody.
No, and I think this is kind of what Chris Beard envisioned when he put this team together. Back in the offseason, talking to the staff and people around Beard and just people around the league and the industry, everybody kind of said the same thing. It's like Chris Beard wants dudes that love basketball and they want to do it every single day. And I think that's what he has on this team. He's got a lot of dudes that love to play basketball, and that's all they want to do. And they're going to try to do whatever they can to win. Whether that's, Malik Diaz scoring 18, 19, or it's David Barnes going in and grabbing a bunch of rebounds and forcing some turnovers. I mean, it's a lot of selfless basketball. And I think that's what you get from a team that's made up of 7 guys with over 1,000 games played, 7 guys with over 1,000 points scored. It's a lot of seniors, a lot of guys that I wouldn't call it like, a last hurrah, like this is all I got left. I mean, it's not that. I think it's more so they know what's at stake. They know that they've never been here. And now that they are, they're not ready to go home. But yeah, I think, Beard mentioned they've been watching the 1983 NC State documentary, Jim Valvano, which that NC State team was also a 6 seed. I'm excited to see this team go up against Tom Izzo at Michigan State. If you remember the last time Chris Beard and Tom Izzo faced off, Chris Beard beat him. So I'm sure you saw the soundbite or saw the video or heard the soundbite of Izzo where he was like, Ole Miss won. Like the antenna went up a little bit, Steven. So I think it's going to be a great game. There's no way to truly know what's going to happen. I mean, I don't think anybody really thought Ole Miss would just blow the doors off Iowa State. I don't think this will be that lopsided. I think both teams do a lot of things well, and it should be a really, really fun Sweet 16 matchup. I know Auburn and Michigan's going to get all the buzz because Auburn's just down the road, and Michigan and two rabid fan bases. But it's kind of nice though for Atlanta, for the people at State Farm Arena, because you get Michigan and Michigan State, and then you get Auburn with Bruce Pearl, and you get Chris Beard and Ole Miss. So I don't know if Ole Miss fans will outnumber the other fan bases, but I know there are going to be a lot of Ole Miss people there. First Sweet 16 in 24 years.
Yeah, there's going to be a ton of powder in that arena, and I do think no matter what the color they tell people to wear, Ole Miss fans need to be wearing powder to that game because it's just going to stand out with what's going on. Everybody should be in powder. But the Michigan and Michigan State, that would be like Ole Miss and State being in the same Sweet 16 pod. And then Auburn has just become basically Kentucky as far as basketball fanaticism. So they're going to fill that place up.
You got to give Pearl credit, man. He's built a monster. I mean, that probably next to Cameron Indoor, Mackey Arena with Purdue, one of the better home court advantages now. I mean, people don't like going there. What do they call it? The jungle. People don't like going to the jungle because they get crazy there. So it's they've earned it. I'll give them that. the Auburn fan base has earned it because they are legit. Now, you look at present tense, not regular season Auburn, kind of struggled a little bit in the tournament. Haven't looked as strong as they have all year. And we're not going to talk about the Auburn game, but I'm very intrigued to see what Dusty May and Michigan has cooked up for Bruce Pearl and Auburn.
If you just look at this pod of all the teams, I think the team that Ole Miss matches up worse against that they could have to meet in the Elite Eight would be Michigan. I think Michigan would be absolutely terrible for Ole Miss.
Yeah, the big men are solid. Like I think the reason why Ole Miss matched up so poorly against a team like, everybody matches up poorly against Florida for the most part. I mean, UConn gave them hell. They tried. I think the athleticism of the big men for Florida, like Vlad Golden, solid big dude for Michigan, but not super athletic. So I think Malik Dia could hold his own. But yeah, the whole story with Ole Miss, and you mentioned the Michigan State people in your comments talking about Ole Miss has never faced defense. They just beat the shit out of a team that has a great defense. I mean, Iowa State, I mean, they were a top 5 defense, or not top 5. They were they're probably top 10. But I mean, Ole Miss had 15. They had 15.
They're better. You're a better turnover defense than Ole Miss is, and Ole Miss gets after you.
Maybe top 5 in turnovers forced. But I mean, they were relentless all season with awesome. But yeah, 15 assists, 11 threes, 4 guys with multiple threes. They forced 15 turnovers, and they were out rebounded. But I mean, I thought the pace was what made that game what it was. I thought Iowa State wanted to slow things down and just pound away and just grind Ole Miss down to a pulp. Ole Miss didn't do it. They got out in transition. They really, and Beard's done a really good job, and I know his staff has been really keen on this season. They maximize possessions. Beard, it's kind of funny. Like since he's been at Ole Miss, he hasn't been very animated on the sidelines. Like he pretty much sits down. It's kind of different. Every now and then, he'll get up and he'll get the hands on the knees and he'll get down, but he really only will get animated or kind of get up if there's a wasted possession, if there's, a bad shot or just a quick shot when you don't have numbers, things like that. But I thought in the second half, Ole Miss, it's almost like, Steven, when you're playing NCAA football and you put chew clock on. I mean, they ran the shot clock down into the single digits and they got good shots. And they hit their threes. I mean, that's been the story in the tournament, right? They're 49% from 3 right now. So that's a big storyline for this Friday. Michigan State holds people to right at 28% from 3. Michigan State is a top 5 defense. Now it's interesting. They don't force a ton of turnovers. They close out well. They contest shots and then they rebound and they get runouts. And that's kind of what they do. They've got athletes, they've got guards that can run, they can get up and down the floor. That's what Ole Miss is going to have to be good at. They're going to have to get back and really make this a half-court game. I mean, New Mexico, I thought they played a hell of a game, and they just kind of ran out of steam. But if you could tell Chris Beard, like, hey, we're going to hold Jace Richardson to 0 points until like the last 3 minutes or whatever it was the other night, I think Ole Miss will take that because, Jace Richardson didn't score until that very end of that game when they were just, hitting free throws to close it out. But yeah, I think Michigan State's, I think they're the second best rebounding team in college basketball. So it's been an Achilles heel for Ole Miss. They're going to have to maximize possessions, and guys like Sean Padula, Matthew Morrell had a great game the other night. I thought that was very, very, wasn't talked about enough. Jamin Brakefield off the bench. That's been a very big thing for Ole Miss, not just in the tournament, but down the stretch. They've had good play off the bench. They're going to need him. They're going to need guys to just get buckets because Michigan State's going to be nails on defense. So it's going to be another fun one. This is the kind of game I think Beard likes, where it's going to be strength on strength, and let's see what the backcourt for Ole Miss can do against a really talented Spartan defense.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk to Zach Berry about players that need to step up and continue talking about this basketball game. And Michigan State fans know This isn't saying you're bad. Everybody's good at this level. Everybody can beat anyone, and confidence is not wrong. But we'll talk to you in just a second. Stick around. So today's show is brought to you by the Nissan Armada Team of the Week. It's brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, our Locked On college basketball experts are picking one team that stands apart. From top-seeded stars to unexpected upsets, these guys have showcased their strength and sheer power needed to push their team forward. This week's Armada clear-cut Team of the Week is the Arkansas Razorbacks. Despite losing their first 5 SEC games, Coach Cal's Hawks fought through their way through the most rugged conference in all of college basketball, losing to Chris Beard and Ole Miss twice, by the way, to not only make the NCAA tournament, but knock off back-to-back national championship winning coaches and Hall of Fame coaches as well en route to a Sweet 16. They accomplished all this without their second leading scorer in Boogie Flan for most of SEC play and without scorer and rebounder Adu Thero so far in the NCAA tournament. When it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer, and that's exactly what the Arkansas Razorbacks have done in this NCAA tournament. It's clear that our Team of the Week is out here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you, in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of Nissan's outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find that next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. So, Zach, this is a game, and I did a show this morning talking about 3 things that Ole Miss has to do to make it through this weekend. And these are the 3 things that I thought were massively important. I think that Jamin Brakefield and Matthew Morrell need to have the same game that they had against Iowa State, as far as 15 points plus for both of them. I think that's very important. Second of all, I think Dre Davis needs to avoid foul trouble. He can be a very good offensive player, and fouls have a way of derailing and cutting and stunning that momentum. And third of all, I think bench players, and when I say bench players, I do mean Davin Barnes. I do mean Eduardo Klafke. I think you need to find 6 to 8 points in the run of play from those players. And when Ole Miss does that, that's going to unlock what's going on from them from good to great.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're going to need some good minutes from Klafke because, look, Michigan State does a really good job of getting to the foul line. Their guards like to get downhill. I don't know about you. I haven't watched every single game. I've watched pretty much every single game in the tournament, but I thought the officials, for the most part, through the first 2 rounds, I thought overall the officiating has been pretty solid. Mm-hmm. I thought they've let a lot of people play. They haven't tried to control games. I thought the pace has been good overall. And honestly, I don't know the crew. I think they're going to have to let them play because Michigan State likes to be physical. Ole Miss likes to be physical. They like to get out and extend you with defense. But yeah, the offensive glass is going to be key. And I think guys like Barnes and Klafke, and you mentioned Dre Davis, who's a starter, but you're going to need those guys to really get down in the trenches and get you those boards. Because, I mean, maybe Ole Miss keeps going at this rate, but I mean, they've made damn near half of their threes that they've taken in the first 2 games. I mean, it only takes, a couple games to make a run to the Final Four, so you get hot. I've had a lot of people text me and say that they're getting, 2022 baseball vibes. I don't know if we're there yet, but I mean, obviously this team is playing with a ton of confidence. I think that I'm not going to say emergence because he was an all-SEC guy, but Sean Padula has really upped his game. And Malik Dia, the guy, he had an up-and-down season. I think everybody kind of, took a step back and was like, whoa, like this guy, when he dominated that game in Tuscaloosa. Everybody kind of expected, hey, maybe this is what we're going to get from Dia every night. He's been tremendous. I mean, just his inside-outside game is one of the best in the country right now in terms of players remaining. And I think, this game's going to be a step up in the weight class. You're going from, cruiserweight, you're getting up to heavyweight now with this because Tom Izzo, I mean, the death taxes and Tom Izzo in March. I mean, the guy's elite for a reason. He pretty much has the Spartans in a Sweet 16 damn near every year. He's a Hall of Famer. I don't actually know if he's not in the Hall of Fame, he's going to be a first ballot, no brainer. But yeah, I think that's going to be the key, like you said, staying out of foul trouble early and keep Michigan State off that free throw line. Make them make shots. I mean, keep them in front, play defense. I mean, the no middle stuff has been great so far. Just make them make contested shots, and that's really all you can do, right? I mean, Ole Miss is a bad defensive rebounding team. I mean, there's no way around it. And look, they're bottom 30, I believe, in free throw rate allowed. But like the EFG of like 68%, which is what it was in the Iowa State game. I mean, that's insane. I mean, if you're north of 60 in EFG, I mean, you're going to beat a lot of people. And like you said, at this point, it's Sweet 16. Everybody's good. Everybody's got a shot. I don't think it's crazy to think Ole Miss can beat Michigan State. I've heard a lot of national pundits say the same thing. I think the Spartans, for good reason, are going to get the benefit of the doubt here. I think the line is what, 5.5, something like that.
3.5.
Okay,
it's the smallest Sweet 16 line.
Okay, so it moved. I saw, I think it was Sunday or no, it was Monday. My buddy Chris Felica, Fox Sports. Since 2018, there have been 5 instances of a 2 seed favored by 3 or fewer in the Sweet 16. 2 seeds have lost 4 of those 5 games. 2 of those were to a Chris Beard coach team. So there's a little bit of a common denominator there with Chris Beard. And that's the thing, right? I mean, Ole Miss haven't been in this position since 2001. But Chris Beard, he's been in these battles. He's been in these wars before. So I think that's big. Another thing, following up that stat, in 2019, Texas Tech beat Michigan like a drum, 63-44. They were a 2-point dog. And then in 2018, Texas Tech beat Purdue 78-65 as a 2-point dog. So those were two seeds that Chris Beard's team defeated. So obviously, it's not a one-of-one trade here. It's a very different, 2 different teams. But yeah, I mean, I think Ole Miss has got a really, really good chance here to kind of upset the apple cart a little bit with Michigan State's run. I think that the experience and, like I said, this team's playing with a lot of confidence, and Ole Miss is not going to be scared. I mean, again, like I said, a lot of old guys. They're not going to be wowed by the big lights. They're not going to be scared of Michigan State. So I'm excited to see how this team competes. I think the first 8 minutes are going to be key. Beard talked a lot about how he called like the first, I think it was like the first 6 minutes of that Iowa State game. He called it, quote, scary. Ole Miss had I think they had 3 turnovers in the first 4 minutes. Wasn't looking great. I think it was 15-8 Iowa State. And then Ole Miss went on a run and, practically ran them out of the building and had a good close to the first half. And then the second half came out firing. So, yeah, you're going to need Padula to do his thing. But, yeah, I think Dia and then, like you said, the guys off the bench are where this game is going to be won for Ole Miss.
I have a theory right now, and this is an advantage that Chris Beard and the Ole Miss Rebels have in this tournament. And that is, with the Ole Miss no-middle defense, the weakness in that is the corner 3-point shot. Now, Michigan State has not shot very well from outside from the 3-point range, and they really were exasperated in the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament. Well, one thing that I've noticed is this tournament has very hard rims. The balls that I've seen more layups missed. I've seen more bunnies that normally get rolled in get missed. And that means it's going to be harder to hit those corner threes, which mean the more no middle defense is going to be even more effective, which is going to allow Ole Miss to get out and run and play less set offense. That explains to me a little bit of the first 2 rounds for Ole Miss.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people complain about the overinflation of the ball. It's kind of like the opposite of Deflategate with Tom Brady, where there's a lot of guys like Dalton Connect from last year's tournament. I saw that he was one of the guys that complained about it, said that they really pumped the balls up. It's going to be slightly different. It's going to be in a bigger NBA arena. It's not going to be the football stadium that you get in the Final Four.
Yes,
but
not Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah, not Mercedes-Benz, but it's going to be, a little bit bigger. And look, I think the crowd's going to be huge. I think that, I know the tickets are I mean, they're
like get-in price is like $600.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot, but
Mm.
but yeah, I mean, we said it plenty of times already. I mean, it's the first time in 21 years or 24 years for Ole Miss. So I think there are going to be a lot of Ole Miss fans. Atlanta's a big hub for Ole Miss alum, and it's a short drive for a lot of people that are Ole Miss fans. So I do think there's going to be it's going to be a packed house, and I think Ole Miss is gonna feed off that, whether it's the Michigan State crowd or whether it's the Ole Miss crowd. I think this team, again, belaboring the point here, this Ole Miss team is they're not gonna be starstruck. They're not gonna be nervous. I think that they're in a really good spot with how they've handled the tournament thus far. I mean, you had North Carolina. I mean, that's a blue blood, right? I mean, that's one of the logos in college basketball. And the Tar Heels made a run late, but I mean, Ole Miss, what was it, 25-point lead at one point? I mean, it was something crazy. They were up big.
Yeah, they led by 25 in both rounds of the tournament.
Yeah. And Iowa State, I don't know if they're a blue blood, but I mean, that's one of the better Big Ten programs and one of the better teams in this tournament. So I think that this game is interesting because you mentioned the corner three being something that you leave yourself susceptible to as a no middle defense. I kind of feel like Tom Izzo, Michigan State, they don't score a ton. They're still in the high 70s like Ole Miss. They might play a little bit of, let's try to let Ole Miss shoot themselves out of this one. I don't think that Michigan State's going to just run down and score 95 in this one. I think it's going to be a lot of, hey, let's let Ole Miss try to continue this run of threes and let's just rebound and get down and run our sets. Mentioning the no middle, I do think that Ole Miss would benefit a lot from, you alluded to staying out of foul trouble. I think the guards got to get set. You got to plant your feet and take a charge. I was talking to a national guy on Sunday, and we were saying, man, if you beat your man to your spot and you're set, depending on the officiating crew, I mean, 9 times out of 10 you're going to get that call, especially if you're a smaller guard, like big men, like a 3 or 4 or 5, like those guys rarely get it because I think that's just an officiating thing, right? It's just like a subconscious thing where it's a big man on big man. But yeah, I mean, if you're a guard, like Juju Murray, Sean Padula, these guys that get in there, get set, take a charge. I mean, that's almost like an interception in football, right? You get the crowd hyped up, you get a big stop. I think Ole Miss is going to really need to do that because the Trey Holloman, Jace Richardson, those guards from Michigan State, they're going to want to attack. Go ahead and get in there and get set and take a charge. And yeah, I mean, just try to stay out of foul trouble and with the no middle, try to avoid being a little overly aggressive, right? You got the rotation of the defense, you got help. Don't get too antsy. And I think if Ole Miss just kind of stays within themselves, shoots the three well, and you get what you've gotten so far from Dia, Brakefield, Morrell, and Sean Padula. And then you mentioned, try to find like 6 to 10 points from the bench from other guys besides Brakefield. Ole Miss has got a shot here. And I mean, this is not your typical Michigan State March team. I mean, I think they're very, very good and they're very solid, but it doesn't scare you like a lot of former Izzo teams do. So yeah, and again, I mean, I think the ultimate, the card up the sleeve for Ole Miss is Chris Beard. I mean, you talk about someone that's not going to be afraid of the moment. I mean, the guy's been there. He's been in a national title game. He was in, an overtime missed jumper away from winning a championship with Texas Tech. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm excited to see how Ole Miss handles the moment.
All right, when we come back in our final segment, we'll talk to Zach about why Ole Miss has more trips to the Sweet 16 in the last 30 years than Mississippi State by 2. And we'll also talk about how this Ole Miss football roster is kind of taking on the personality of its coach. We'll talk about that in just a second. But first, I do want to let you know about Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trade, Supply House. Whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources, and their latest product information will help you get the job done right. Plus, with this complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast and from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service. You'll always talk to a real person. And trade pros looking for that extra edge? Their Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every single order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now is your turn. Join Trade Master today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That is supplyhouse.com. So let's go back to Zach Berry. Listen, I saw an interesting stat online the other day because the internet, if it's not good for anything else, it's good for stats. Do you know the last Sweet 16 appearance from Mississippi State was 1996?
I did. I was looking at my good buddy Nicholas Carr. He's kind of our resident analytics stat nerd. He dives in deep. He posted, I guess it was yesterday. So Georgia and Mississippi State, 1996, have not been since 1996. So Ole Miss was right there at 2001 until now. Vanderbilt in 2007, Missouri 2009, Oklahoma probably 2016. That was one. South Carolina. Yeah, Trae Young. South Carolina, people forget 2017, made a run all the way to the Final Four. I mean, A&M 2018, that's one I forgot about. LSU 2019, and then Texas 2023. Yeah, all this year. I mean, 17s broke the record. I mean, blew the record out of the water with 14 in the tournament, and then you get 7 in. It's pretty remarkable. But, yeah, I mean, that was kind of one of those things, right, with Ole Miss fans having to hear that, in your ear constantly. Is you never been to Atlanta for football, and, you hadn't been to a Sweet 16 in, over 20 years. Well, now that's no longer. I'm glad you brought this up because I was talking to some people on Sunday night. I think this is kind of a full circle moment for Chris Beard and Ole Miss, because I think this was kind of the biggest hurdle to get over. And I mean that for recruiting, where, a lot of guys would either not even look at Ole Miss, or they might take the call, but they're not really listening. They're not paying attention because Ole Miss they don't really have basketball history. I mean, let's be real. 2001. I mean, that was it. I mean, that Jason Harrison hitting 3. I mean, that team was outstanding with Jason Flanagan, with Justin Reed.
You were 6.
I mean, great team. I mean, yeah. I was 2001, so I was. Let's do some quick math here. Yeah, I was 13. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's been forever. But yeah, I mean, that's Beard has talked about that, where he's like, we've sold the vision, we've sold the culture. We've worked hard on the home court advantage and getting the buy-in from the fans and the collective and the boosters. I think this right here, with beating North Carolina, beating Iowa State, getting to the Sweet 16, and look, I don't know about you. I'm a big nerd about very specific things. One of my biggest things that I love is a good group to call a game. I'm pumped to hear Bill Raftery do an Ole Miss game. Very excited for that.
He's the guy that called the Jason Harrison shot.
Yeah.
After he made the shot, he's like, onions. Yeah.
So excited for that. I mean, yeah, it's the A team, like you said. I mean, it's going to be a great group to call the game. And, but yeah, that was always the kind of, but with Ole Miss basketball recruiting was guys just don't, for whatever reason, they don't trust us. And I don't think that's like a fault to Beard or his staff for not doing a good enough job. It's just on paper, Ole Miss is not done enough. So this is big. I'm not saying Ole Miss is going to go and just get every 5-star and every top transfer now, but it's certainly going to help to show now, like, hey, the proof is here. Like, we built this in 2 years. Look where we're at. And I think that's going to be big for Ole Miss because they've already recruited well in high school. They did a good job in the portal last year and put this team together. But I mean, I saw yesterday that the record for portal entries on the first day was already broken yesterday, and that was the record total was broken in day one. So the pool for transfers is going to be a lot bigger. And this is a huge step for Keith Carter, for Chris Beard, and this entire program. And that's another thing I tell Ole Miss fans all the time is you got to feel good about your basketball program, that your AD is a guy that played basketball. So Keith Carter will probably be, very, very, democratic with it and say like, oh, I love all the sports the same. Like, he's got a soft spot for basketball because he played there. I mean, no one can blame him, but I think you're in good hands no matter what, whether Chris Beard's there for 15 years or whatever. He cares about the program and he cares about competing at a high level in the SEC, which is, you got to do it now with how good the league is.
Listen, Ole Miss is playing with house money from this point on this season.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Beard in his second year matched the longest run in the history of Ole Miss. No matter what happens Friday night, it's at least tied because in 2001 they lost to Arizona. So if he wins that game, I do not think that Ole Miss fans realize what that will do for recruiting in the transfer portal and recruiting overall, what he will be able to do. Ole Miss is on a Bruce Pearl Auburn trajectory right now. That is what's happening. And the quicker they make that Elite Eight, whenever that happens, I mean, it can start snowballing really, really fast.
Yeah, I mean, I had people, griping about the ticket prices. And, I was like, hey, it's not a guarantee, but as long as Chris Beard's there, I mean, this is probably not going to be your last Sweet 16 appearance. So, it's kind of a worst case scenario for Ole Miss fans with Auburn being in the same region as you and you're in Atlanta because that's a huge hub for Auburn alum and that fan base. But yeah, I mean, Chris Beard's going to get you back to another one. It might be next year, it might be 2 years. I mean, it's something that I think Ole Miss fans are going to need to get used to, and that's competing at a high level in the NCAA tournament. I do want to give a shout out to my guy, Chris Wash. He told me all season that Ole Miss would get to a Sweet 16. He said Sweet 16 at minimum. He told me that back in the summer. He told me that in September. He was consistent. And he was like, look, man, I know this staff. I know this team that they put together, and I know that they're going to get there. And he was right because, I mean, there was no doubt on Sunday. I mean, we haven't even talked about it. It was an 11-point game. And Ole Miss is bringing the ball up the floor, and Iowa State conceded. Yeah. I thought that was nuts. I thought they would at least try to press one more time, and TJ Austinberg was just like, we're done. It's over. So hell of a job by this staff, and if you're an Ole Miss fan, you got to love it, man. It's huge. Before we forget, we have to give a shout-out to Coach Yo.
Yes, absolutely. Team. Yes.
I mean, took it to Baylor at Baylor. If you're not paying attention to the women's tournament, I think you should. The games have been outstanding. Women's basketball, college and WNBA, is completely different than it was 5 years ago. The games are far more competitive, far more intense. But if you don't know, Ole Miss was at Baylor. It wasn't a neutral site. Like, they were in Baylor's gym and took it to them. Madison Scott hit a big shot from the elbow to take the lead, and Ole Miss eventually got to another Sweet 16, 2 already for Coach Yo. I mean, just insane how quickly she's turned that program around. And, I mean, I think the portal this year is going to be monumental because they're going to have to replace a lot. But the way she coaches, I mean, there's a lot of similarities with her and Beard. I think that they're 1 or 2 high caliber transfers away from knocking on that door into the Final Four.
Yeah. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Zach Berry joining us on the show. I just figured it was time that everybody got to hear from Zach and all that. We're not going to dig into it. But, Zach, man, thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll talk to you again later, bud.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you.